If someone keeps treating your private driveway like their personal parking lot, how far would you go to stop them? This is the story of how I turned repeated driveway trespasses into a public, legal, and very satisfying trap. I'm watching this one from the United States. If you want more HOA and entitled people stories, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. It started as something small and borderline ridiculous. A truck in my driveway. Then a minivan. Then Karen's little crossover, day after day for months. She had an HOA-approved badge of authority and the attitude to match. She used my driveway as a shortcut, a place to drop off donations, a staging area for her inspections. Every time I confronted her, it was the same. A clipped look, a muttered excuse, and the next week, another car in the spot that was supposed to be mine. At first, I tried the sensible route. I left polite notes. I photographed license plates. I filed written complaints with the HOA. I even put up a tasteful private driveway sign. Nothing stuck. The HOA shrugged and said parking enforcement was for public streets only. Karen waved that away and treated the spot like communal property. Once you hit the end of patience, the options narrow. I could have escalated into ugly things, locks, tire slashes, booby traps that would have landed me in legal trouble. I refused that path. I wanted something smarter, cleaner, and legal. I wanted a trap with witnesses, paperwork, and public consequences. So, I designed one. First step was evidence. I bought a modest security camera that recorded to the cloud and set it on the porch facing the driveway. The footage collected the daily procession of cars and the exact moments Karen strode across my lawn to open another person's trunk. The kind of hard proof that the HOA could not write off as he said, she said. I backed that up with a spreadsheet. Dates, times, plate numbers, short notes on what happened. This was my foundation. Next, I built neighborhood allies. Quiet conversations with two other neighbors revealed that Karen's parking wasn't an isolated habit. She used other people's driveways when she wanted quick access to a street for an event or to unload items for her volunteer group. People were tired, but also afraid of her petty reprisals. I offered a simple deal. If they'd show up as witnesses, I'd promise to keep the whole thing clean and lawful. They agreed. Then I went to the city. Not to complain, not to beg. I applied for a trivial, perfectly legal permit, a temporary neighborhood arts display for a Saturday afternoon block event. The permit allowed me to reserve curb space and the end of my driveway for a few hours. That permit gave me two things I needed. It made the driveway off limits for parking during the event window, and it gave me the right to place signage and barriers legally. I scheduled the event for a Saturday when Karen usually staged her volunteer rounds. Over the next week, I built out the show. I rented a folding table, printed a professional-looking sign that read, "Historic Driveway Exhibit, Reserved," and made an event flyer describing a small community showcase, neighborhood photos, kids' art, lemonade. I made sure the event looked civic and harmless. I told the HOA communications person about it in a friendly email, and even copied the permit confirmation. I wanted administrators on record as knowing this was happening. Saturday morning arrived crisp and bright. The table went up, the sign was planted, and neighbors began to trickle in, each with a printed flyer and a smile. I posted the event publicly on the neighborhood group and invited anyone curious to stop by between 9 and 11 a.m. The point was visibility. The trap would only work if it was public. As expected, Karen rolled up right around 9:15. She parked 2 houses down, clipboard in hand, wearing the face of someone who had never been denied anything. She walked up the street toward the driveway saying she needed just a minute to drop off an urgent package. She assumed an empty driveway meant permission. She did not expect the little crowd, the official sign, and the folding table that had a volunteer from the HOA on it. When she stepped into the reserved area, the camera recorded it. 2 neighbors politely asked her to move her car. She waved them off and tried to stride past the table. The volunteer, who happened to be the HOA communications person from a different block, explained that the driveway was reserved by permit for the neighborhood exhibit. Karen insisted. Someone opened their phone and showed the city permit confirmation. The polite crowd became the firm crowd. At that point, Karen did what she always did. She dialed it up. She called the HOA president, and then with a flourish, she called 911 because she wanted illegal obstruction removed. She expected a sheriff to back her up. She expected to be vindicated in front of everyone. What she did not expect was paperwork, witnesses, and pre-existing documentation on my side. Before anyone arrived, I sent an email to the HOA board from the table, attaching the permit and the camera footage timestamps from the morning. I CC'd the city permit office and the HOA communications address. That email created a paper trail showing I had acted legally and transparently. When the city parking enforcement officer arrived, he saw the permit, the sign, and the smiling crowd. He checked my paperwork, confirmed the temporary reservation, and politely explained to Karen that the driveway was legally closed for the event window. Karen sputtered and argued. The officer reviewed my cloud camera footage, confirmed repeated trespass incidents on other days, and wrote a citation ticket for illegal parking if she returned to block the driveway again. The officer explained the citation would be enforced and that repeated violations were a civil matter. Karen's face went from outraged to small in seconds. She did not call 911 again for the event. She left muttering. The clip from my door camera went up on the neighborhood group later that day, accompanied by the email chain and the permit screenshot. People watched the footage and saw the pattern of behavior. They saw Karen's entitlement in motion. The online commentary was merciless but fair. The HOA board had to do something. Over the next 2 weeks, the HOA sent Karen a formal warning. They issued an internal penalty for repeated complaints. The neighbors who had been silent began reporting their own instances with the same evidence. The board changed policy to clarify that private driveways were off limits and that temporary permits could be used to reserve spaces. More importantly, the board instituted a policy requiring the HOA to investigate trespass claims rather than assume authority. By the end of the month, Karen was grounded. Her days of casually hijacking private property ended not with revenge, but with civic process, visibility, and a carefully documented plan. She tried a few last small stunts, but the community had seen the pattern and rallied. She moved her car respectfully, and in one notable instance, even parked at the opposite end of the block. I kept the camera, I kept the permit copies. I kept being a good neighbor. The driveway stayed mine. The trap worked because it was legal, public, and clever. It exposed the behavior without stooping to violence or trickery. It turned entitlement into paperwork. And that was exactly the kind of trap that never hurts to spring. If you like this one, drop which country you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more HOA and entitled people stories.